Hey, it's Aaron, the Metal Theologian. It feels so quiet, man. So I'm listening to this psychedelic record instead of like the usual, like, wah, shit, right? Yeah, this is actually a fantastic record, though. You know, I was kind of in the mood for some stoner shit the other day, right? And actually, I pulled out a couple things. Because there are sort of a few things from like the last kick when I like got a bunch of records. Excuse me. And I sort of played them a little bit, but I was like, you know, sometimes you get a record and you like put it on. You're like, this is really good, but I'm really aware of the fact that I'm not in the mood for this right now. So I kind of did that with some of these, and so I pulled them back out again, like this one. You know, I love Ararat. When I got that second record, which I know I hyped really hard a while ago, but that was just one of the greatest fucking things ever, like out of the whole genre. And so this is an earlier one. This is the first album. I thought this was getting reissued. I was blown away. I was so happy because it had only been a CD originally, and you know I'd have to find one, and I have to get a CD player too because that Coltrane, my kid is actually going to repossess this one pretty soon. So, um, yeah. Anyway, Ararat fucking rules. But you know, I was just sort of sitting over there because I was like, yeah, man, I'm not in the mood for this kind of music. So I'm gonna listen to my metal for a while. Then when I'm set, well, I've been ready the last few days, but I found myself kind of gravitating toward the psychedelic stuff. So like, this is kind of the one that set me back off, even though it was kind of more like on the heavy side than what I was looking for. Because someone was hyping this on that year-end stream that they did over on Heavy Metallurgy. And I apologize, I don't remember who it was. It was someone whose channel I don't know as well, but he was talking about telekinetic Yeti. And I was like, yeah, you know something, I can't very well. I mean, come on, you know. Although, you know what's funny? Is, to my mind, band names like Telekinetic Yeti, like these ones the stoners are doing now, really aren't any different from like the Strawberry Alarm Clock or like the Chocolate Watch Band, and this fucking like these kind of silly like flower power names that the stoners were doing in the '60s. It's like they're doing the exact same shit, only they have names like Telekinetic Yeti. You know what I mean? There was another one. It was like something about like fuck, I don't remember now. Anyway, this is another one, and this was kind of more like towards the metal than what I was looking for, but it's a really cool record, man. It's really slow and dirgy, and I mean, look at that cover. I mean, I can't fucking resist that shit, right? Yeah, Mammon's Throne. That's kind of more like the kind of band name I expect from a doom band, you know what I'm saying? Or even Ararat, you know? Telekinetic Yeti, though, in a way that's just too perfect. Like, it's so perfect that it's almost silly, you know what I mean? But not quite. It's actually fucking fantastic, so it's really good. So anyway, I found myself going for the psychedelic shit, though. And this is probably the spaciest one out of everything I've sort of come across in this little journey. I mean, there are other records that are sort of weirder, but as far as just being like a great, like, middle of the night record, you know, and it's like midnight now, because that's when I always make videos, you know? Yeah, so it's, you know something? I'm not sure which one is the band name and which one is the fucking record name. It's like Vårt Solsystem, Vadslige Bekymmer. I think Vårt Solsystem is the, or Solsystem? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm sure I'm not. Anyway, I think that's the band. But it's really cool, and it's on this K2 label, which is easier to remember. And if you go over to like Fuzz Trip, who hooked me up with this fucking thing, you can just search by label, and that's an easy way to find it anyway, so. Yeah, Vart Sol System is definitely the band name, okay? So let's just clear that up, okay? I kind of suck at this. I like leave the things on, and I always assume people know every band I'm talking about, unless I don't know them, in which case I do something like this, right? That's it, though. So there you go. You can pause it if you want to make a note of it. But it's a really cool, like, spacey one, and I've gotten other things on that label, too, that K2 label. I think the label's out of Sweden. Most of the bands are Swedish. But they tend to be like this kind of shit. Like, generally a little more stoner than this and less sort of purely psychedelic, but definitely on the psychedelic end of the stoner shit, which again is kind of my favorite stuff, you know? You know what this really reminds me of, though? Even though it has its own feeling, this reminds me... Actually, I was going to say it reminds me of a lot of the German shit, like the krautrock, but you know what it really reminds me of? Is those fake ones that came out on the sci-fi label in the 90s that got pressed on record finally by, I forgot the name, that label out of Spain, but like, you know, the Galactic Explorers and Golem and, Cosmic Corridors, those records. This kind of reminds me of that. It has that sort of feeling to it, you know what I mean? That sort of spaciness. Probably less Golem than the other ones, because that's kind of the more rockin' one. God, what did I do with the fucking inner sleeve, man? I hate it when I'm fucking making a video and I lose the inners. Like, it was funny the first, 50 times I did it. It was like, oh, look at that. Fucking being a dumbass with my records as usual. Haha, but now it's just fucking annoying. I'm actually going to start putting it back in the jackets, too, because doing it after the fact, same deal. I have to find the shit. It's a pain in the ass. I get grumpy. Alright, what am I going to play? You know what I'm going to put on for a minute? This is kind of a crunchy copy, but this is a cool one. This band Explorer. Exploding. You know, I've always had, in my head canon, because, I started learning about, the existence of a lot of these sort of obscure records at the same time. And these guys are from the UK, right? And Exploder was from Germany, but there always seemed to be, a connection between Explorer, Exploding, which is already kind of silly, and another band just called themselves Exploder. But their record was called Pictures of Reality, so it kind of kills the joke a little bit. This is a pretty beat-up copy, I'll just fucking warn you right now, but, it's not one you see around very often, and, fuck it. I mean, I've said before that one way I find some of this really rare shit is I compromise on conditions, so that's what we're going to do. And one thing you'll never hear me say without sarcasm in my voice is, oh, I wouldn't do that to my needle. That's you know something? My needle has the balls for any fucking record I want to subject it to. Because, for one thing, it's made of diamond. You know how hard diamond is? What do you think is harder, diamond or plastic? I realize it's not as simple as that, but I think that when people fret about their needle too much, they're kind of wasting their energy, you know what I'm saying? So, anyway, oh yeah, this kind of gets lumped in with the new wave of British heavy metal, but it's kind of late because it's 84. It kind of has that vibe. It's a little bit wimpy. It's not really as heavy as that looks. It's more as heavy as a band called Explorer would sound. You know what I'm saying? In fact, this back design, in a way, is pretty representative of the band. You see that? Because they actually have that, sort of weird, helmet thing going on. And the logo, it's not a good logo, but it has that high school appeal. You know what I mean? It's totally serviceable, but it's all shrunk down. It's they're not really fully committed to it. And that's kind of how the whole record is. You know what I mean? It's there. It's just not fully committed. This is a nice riff, you know? I would like a little more confidence in the delivery. I see, because that's pretty solid. We have kind of a Buck Dharma sounding singer too, who's I really like Buck Dharma singing, but when they want the power, they go with Eric Bloom, right? It's the same kind of deal here, Now, again, this is some nobody band, and this is a private press record, so, I'm sure it was one of their friends or something. And that's cool, because this record, for what it is great. You gotta embrace the flaws with it. I actually thought about starting a series that is just called, Shitty Records or something like that. And it'd be like record reviews, but they'd always be shitty records. And I just talk about why you should actually like them, because I love them, and I love them because they're great. Not quite like that. I'd be you should love them because they're great, and I also love them, and you should join me in loving them, But it'd be predicated on the idea that they were shitty records. So, it'd be a little hard to pick, because I couldn't pick, Don't Break the Oath, I mean, that's sort of an ironic pick in a way, too, because Don't Break the Oath definitely has things about it that you can label as shitty if you were so inclined. But doing that would be just obvious contrarianism, and that wouldn't be the point of it, you know what I mean? Opinions on Merciful Fate are pretty well settled, you know what I mean? I'm not going to change anyone's mind about that. If someone's new to metal, maybe to tip them in favor of hearing it or not, and that's great, there's nothing wrong with that. But if I said, okay, I'm going to review shitty records, and I talked about Don't Break the Oath, I just sound like I was being an asshole, you know what I mean? And speaking of being an asshole, I actually pulled this record out just so I could bitch about this, because this pisses me off. So I've been trying on and off for a long time to get my head around Pagan Altar. Because I know they have big fans. Alan from Let's Talk Metals and Heavy Metallurgy is a big fan of Pagan Altar. And I've had this for a decent number of years. I've actually had this one even longer. And like 20 years. It's one of those things I pull out like once every year or two and put it on and go, yeah, this is okay, but you know, I wish it were better, you know? And certain things are weird about it, like the singer's kind of weird and shit, but you know, you get used to those sorts of things. And you're starting to get to know the songs a little bit. And after this thing came out, when I would sort of do my periodic revisits, I usually would go for this one because this just seemed like the better version, you know what I mean? But you know what I just figured out, like within the last year or so, is that this thing just fucking pisses me off. And by the time I get this thing on the turntable, I'm mad at Pagan Altar, and I don't even want to fucking hear it anymore. So the last time I played the record, I actually pulled this one out, and I enjoyed it a lot more. And I think I'm pretty much on board with Pagan Altar. I mean, I'm not at Alan's level, but I don't necessarily strive for that either. But I'll tell you what pisses me off. Okay, look at this thick, heavy cover, right? And then it has like all these bonuses. It has this thick booklet. Look at that. Look at that shit. And then it has posters and shit. And so of course that doesn't all fit in the cover, so it just hangs loose in this huge ass bag, which is what I had to stick it in. And by the time I pull it out and like deal with all this cumbersome shit, this shit flopping all over the place, forget how to lean it with the records, because it's just a pain in the ass. And I want to put on the fucking record and listen to it. I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, I have the poster, and I have the OG, you know? So I actually might sell this fucking thing, man. I haven't decided yet, because, you know, it's a metal record. I don't generally sell shit out of my metal section. It's just kind of because I don't anymore. I don't anymore because I believe in shitty records when it comes to metal more than anything else. That's why. Like the other shit, keep the good shit around. The metal ones, I figure it's only a matter of time, no matter how bad it is, before I eventually find a reason to fall in love with it. So that's the real reason, whatever else I might like rationalize. Anyway, I'm just over this shit, man. I mean, fuck this. This isn't a special edition. It's a fucking albatross edition. It's a pain in your ass. It's a white elephant. I don't want all this fucking shit. I mean, that shit's cool. If it makes you happy, that's great. You know what I mean? But, like, you also might be one of those people who, like, sits down once a week and listens to records for an hour or two. I'm like, no, dude. This is like food. I don't want to be inconvenienced by my fucking record collection, you know? So I'm just over that shit. If you run a label and you're thinking about putting a fucking 50-page book in your fucking record, please don't. I really mean it. Please don't. It's just a fucking pain in the ass. Now I'm all pissed off. No, not really. I'm a little bit annoyed. Hey, you know something? I'm going to talk about this one real quick. I just kind of rediscovered this one out of my collection a few days ago. And I have... When it comes to like new wave British heavy metal, I've like made a lot of sort of claims and like put stakes on the ground, like taking positions that are all arguably arbitrary and shit. Well, I just kind of, one of those is like just sort of generally that new wave British heavy metal as a style of music, to the degree that it is one, doesn't seem to have been very well manifested in the LP format. Well, this fucking record by Black Witch, which I believe is an Irish band. They're on this Irish label out of Dublin, Crashed. And this record came out in '86, okay? Fucking Master of Puppets came out in '86, okay? So it's a little hard to justify it. This is new wave of anything kind of metal, right? But if what you like is that sound... Like, if you listen to, like, the Reincarnate 45, or, like, the Ricochet 45, if you listen to records like that and you wish you had more, like, Turbo, you know what I mean? Like, the Charged for Glory, like, shit of that caliber, that sort of, like, barroom thing, but, like, definitely metal, like, that shit when it's at its best, without being, like, you know, an Iron Maiden or something like that, you know? I don't know that you can do much better than this fucking Black Witch record, Out of Control. Like, I got it, and I played it once or twice now, and it kind of went mad. You know, it's one of those that I knew about for a long time, and then it sort of popped up one day, and it was a lot less than it normally went for, so I was like, coming home, come Papa, you know? And I played it once or twice, and went, yeah, that's a good record, you know, whatever, and I kind of filed it away, and I just pulled it out recently, and I went, holy shit, I can't believe how good this record is. See, this is what I could talk about with my shitty reviews, right? Because I'm sure there are lots of things. I mean, we could start with the guy's hair, right? But I swear, this is a great record, man. And it's not the easiest one to find, but I think there's a reissue of it out there, too. And Black Witch with a Y. Here, let me take it out of the thing, because I'm trying to formed better habits about showing shit in the sleeves since it tends to fuck up the presentation. Anyway, yeah, it's funny that I'm playing this Explorer record because the Black Witch record is better than this. And I like this. I'll defend this fucking band, but, you know. Let's see. Oh, well, here's another one I've kind of been wanting to talk about a little bit. It'll kind of fit in with the general pissy vibe of the video, I suppose, but, yeah, this record is great. Okay, let me just, like, dispel that. I just said I'm being pissy. If you thought it was going to be the Sun Ra record, no. There have been a lot of Sun Ra records coming out in the last 10 years or so. And, yeah, and some of them have been really good. Like, I really feel like the Sun Ra records that have come out in the last 10 years, some of my favorite ones, like probably, and not like one or two, like 5 of my favorite Sun Ra records have been shit that's been sort of unearthed relatively recently, you know? And that's top 5 out of like 30 too, okay? Just being honest here. I mean, out of the 100 or so Sun Ra records I have sitting over there, if I had to pick my favorite 30, I'd probably pick 5 from the last few years, okay? Now those records I really, really love. It's just hard for me. Anyway, this fucking record, man. It's supposed to be some weird thing where there's like some unusual synth that he had one opportunity to play and they like made these recordings. And so I was sort of expecting it to be sort of like a noodly record, like a piano solo record with electronics. I was cool with that. It's more like a band record where he's playing it. And this is the most krautrock sounding thing I've heard in a while, actually. Is what this thing really sounds like in a lot of places. Now, if you don't like the jazzy side of krautrock, you're not going to like this. And frankly, if you don't like jazz, you're probably not going to like this all that much. But as far as the atmospheres and like some of the sounds, like that sort of cosmic thing, this really sounds cosmic, like in an Asherah temple sense, more than like in a 1962 Sun Ra sense, if that makes sense. Or even a fucking 1972 or 82 Sun Ra sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you listen to these Sun Ra shit and you know it's cosmic and how it's cosmic, and you know how the German shit sounds and how that's cosmic, I think you can get a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about here. It's a fantastic record. Oh, the pissy thing I was going to say about it is that this came out on Modern Harmonic. And I just want to be clear that I'm still mad at them over the last couple of fucking pre-orders they did. Because twice I was stupid enough to pre-order from them. And both times, one time I got a seam split with the fucking record. Both times, I was literally the last fucking guy on the planet to get it. Both times, I pre-ordered, so you're first in line, right? You get it hot off the presses. Everyone on Discogs had it, my local shop had it, fucking everyone had it. And finally, a couple more weeks go by, and my pre-order turns up in the mail. It's like, thank you very much, Modern Harmonic. Fuck you, you know, that's bullshit. And the reason I'm making a big deal out of this, I'm encouraging you all to not take the bait on these fucking pre-orders. Because you know something? They can sell their shit in stores just fine. They can sell their shit through mail order just fine. They don't need this fucking pre-order shit with records. Unless it's a situation where it's something that may or may not come to fruition. Like Bananas, when he was gonna when they were talking about doing the 5Ls release, and it was like, we've got to pool our money or else this isn't gonna happen at all. That's different. That's not the same thing. This pre-order shit from a label like Modern Harmonic that's really a front for a major anyway, that's bullshit, man. And don't fucking fall for it, because that's like video game industry shit. And I'll tell you something, the gamers fucking hate and resent it too, so there's no reason that us record collectors should succumb to it either. I know that there are some people, like on Rachel's channel, who are like all excited about the latest like box set and will like go, if you want to do that, play that game, that's okay. But like if you're just a collector, it's bullshit, dude. Fuck it. Makes me feel taken advantage of, and I don't like that. What else are we going to talk about? I sort of had a topic, but I was going to start it before I got to 20 minutes in, so I'll probably save it for next time. Here's another record that, actually, you know something? No, let me talk about this one for a minute. Because I was surprised by this one a little bit, too. This one I kind of bought out of the cheapo bin. They're called Hoover 3, I guess. And I kind of bought it because of the cover, and I was kind of looking for stoner shit, and generally speaking, I've done pretty well just finding shit based on the covers. So, you know, I gave it a chance, and it's sort of a mixed bag. There are parts of it that sound a little bit too clever for itself, especially towards the beginning, but it really sort of warms up after like the first song or two. So like, this record Well, what I didn't like about this record, what I found kind of crappy about it, was all kind of front loaded. You know what I mean? And the result is, like, on the one hand, that kind of starts to ground, so you go, what the fuck was he talking about? Isn't that great? But if you just sort of let it sit back and take it in for a while, between it growing on you and this thing sort of getting increasingly spacey and weird as it goes through, by the time it gets to the end, me and this record have really met up just fine, and I'm feeling pretty good. You know what I'm saying? So this is a really enjoyable record. Hoover 3, I guess, like Hoover with 3 eyes after it. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I can't say I really care all that much either, you know? Why should I care about it if I can just be a dick about it instead, you know? No, you know, it's just, I'm not really inclined to I'm not the sort of one to get bent out of shape over that kind of shit. Either it's a good name or it's not. Like, that's all there is to it. So here's another band that I think actually has kind of a bad name, but they mean a lot to me, which is kind of funny. I haven't played them, but I had occasion to. Oh, I remember why. Because someone reached out to me on Discogs and asked me about selling this. And this is one of the first rare records that I found, right? Like back when I was 22 or something like that. I'll put on that Black Witch record for a second. I'm going to talk for another minute here. But yeah, when I was 20, I was so into Negative Land. Actually, when I was really into Negative Land, it was about the time I met my wife. And she came in the record store where I was working. She said she was looking for something weird. So I sent her home with a copy of a Big 10-8 place. And I gave her a return okay on it, which is sort of within the store rules. So she'd get a full credit on it. She didn't like it. And I knew she'd fucking hate it. And of course she did. So, yeah, I like to tell that story because back then it was unheard of to meet women at the record store. It's not anymore. And actually, that's a really good thing, I think. And not just for lonely young men, but also just because why shouldn't women listen to music? It's fucking fantastic. Yeah, so what was I going to say about Negative Land? I don't remember why I brought them up. It's just kind of fun to show these records once in a while, I guess. You know what I mean? Kind of a long history with music, you know? You don't become an advanced record collector channel when you've only been collecting for a couple of years, you know? So every so often I find one of these old guys that I don't really play so much anymore, but really meant a lot to me at a different point in time, a certain point in time, you know? So this is really one of them. Because this is one of those things I really never thought I'd ever get my hands on back at the time, you know? And if I did, I thought it would be on CD. I still bought CDs. That's how long ago this was. I was still collecting CDs. But this one turned up on record, and I was like, I think God wants me to have it on record, dude. So, it's kind of cool. It even has a little SST catalog in it still. This is probably the record that I played more, though. This was the first one that I heard that just blew my mind. Like, this one and the first one. So, yeah. And since my kid likes a lot of electronic music and shit like that, that's why I pulled these out. I remember now. I kind of wanted to see what kind of reaction I get. He was definitely interested in it, you know what I mean? But it's funny because as sort of tape collage type of music goes, this stuff sounds really primitive compared to a lot of the newer stuff, you know? Listen to this. That could be a 45, cut in 1981, don't you think? From somewhere in the north of England. Newcastle, maybe. Sheffield. That's awesome. This is better than Jaguar on their fucking LP, I think. And Jaguar had great 45s, man. And I like the LP. It isn't just, shit on Jaguar. I'm just saying this is fucking great, and it's way too late. And if Ireland had been so fucking far away at the end of the world back then, this probably would have been impossible. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to imagine a record sounding like this coming out of LA in 86. You know? Or Essen, right? Yeah. Alright, well there we go. 25 minutes. My thing punishes me if I go too long, so that's kind of good because it forces me to space things out, you know what I mean? I don't want to do too much all at once and make y'all sick of me, so. Next time we'll talk about this. We'll talk about certain bands that have the single. Okay, so we'll talk about the single next time. Alright. Thanks for watching.